Elite Expert Insider, the podcast that educates, inspires, and motivates you to take your business and life to the next level. We would like to thank Audible for supporting Elite Expert Insider. Please go to the link bit.ly/Elite Audible. That's bit.ly/Elite Audible and get a free 30-day trial to show your support. Thank you, Audible. Now to Elite Expert Insider for conversations with industry leaders. Hey, welcome. This is Melanie Johnson along with Jen Foster, and welcome to our podcast. We want to remind you to like and share it. Tell your friends about it. We bring you excellent content. You learn and grow every time you join us. We also want to tell you we're brought to you by Elite Online Publishing. If you are thinking of writing a book, you have a book already published, but it's just not going anywhere for you, we're happy to help you and to relaunch your book or to publish it for you. Today, we have a remarkable guest. He has written a book that's become a bestseller. It's called Don't Manage, Lead, and he has another book already in the works. He has started one company, which he sold, and now he has another company that he started, Coombs, and he's going to tell us about that as well. He's kind of a serial entrepreneur, man about town, I would call him. He's a well-traveled man, and he has excellent books. So we are going to dive right into it. We have Art Coombs with us today. Art, how are you doing? And thanks for being here.
I'm doing great. How are you?
We're doing awesome.
So, Jen, say hi to everybody.
Hello.
So, Art, tell us a little bit about your journey from starting companies and then writing a book and how those two tied in and how you were inspired to start companies and then also write a book.
Oh, golly. How did I start starting companies? I guess the first influence I had was my father, who was an entrepreneur. And I think like most children, you just watch your father go off to work and they do what they do. And it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s that I truly understood what my father did. And that had an influence on me. The first company I started was a colossal failure in most people's eyes. I considered it a wild success because I learned tons of lessons. But then I went off and worked in the corporate world. I lived in Europe for about 8 years and did some other things. But in the process of that, I often was setting up divisions or essentially setting up companies for other people. And I learned a very valuable lesson there as well. I had spent about 4 years in Europe for a particular company. And we had grown very, very quickly. And it wasn't because of me. We just had great people and a great product. And we went from zero, one employee. I was the first employee in Europe. We went from zero revenue to about $150 million in revenue a year.
Wow.
About 6,000 employees. And this company went through an IPO. And I don't know about you, but I had fairly high expectations as to the piece of the pie I was going to get as a result of how we grew Europe. And the CEO called me and he said he was very grateful and very appreciative for everything I did, and that he was going to give me 500 shares of stock, which was approximately worth about $5,000. Now that may seem like a lot of money to some people, but to me, honestly, the vivid image that went through my mind was I was a waiter at a very upscale restaurant. I just waited on a table of 50 people, and they flipped me a nickel on the table for a tip. And my right-hand man, my CEO, he even got less, which I think he should have gotten more than me. But we went to lunch. And he was very bitter, very angry, very frustrated. And there were some very vengeful feelings that were taking place. And I said to him, I said, Keith, we can learn from this, or we can just get all upset. And so anyway, we made a pact that the next time we got involved with another company, we were going to do it differently. And that's what sort of started that motion and started that energy in motion. And we started our own companies, and I've been doing it ever since.
I love how you said it's almost like you can look at the glass half empty or half full, right? It's like we can learn from this and move on and never make this mistake again, or we can be bitter about it and wallow in it and never grow.
Right. It's the old Steve Covey analogy of, you get bit by a snake. Yeah, you can get angry at the snake and you can chase the snake, and all that does is accelerate the venom that is coursing through your body, and you die faster. Or you can calmly tie it off, walk to the doctor, and say, okay, I learned a lesson. I'll never put myself in that position again, and just move on. So anyway, that's sort of what has happened professionally for me. And I have found I do not like kicking people's asses, and I don't like people kissing my ass. I'm not very politically correct, so I'm not good in big companies. I just like a very authentic, candid, environment. And for me, that typically means a smaller group of people where there's a very high level of trust, a very high level of respect. There's no ego involved. If people don't like what I say or I don't like what they say, and we challenge each other, nobody's going to lunch going, oh my gosh, am I worried about my job, or is someone stabbing me in the back, something like that. So anyway.
How do you think that equates to? I mean, that sounds also kind of goes back to your book about leadership, having those qualities as a leader. And I love in the first part of your story that you started that first company and said you failed miserably, but it's like you kind of paid for your MBA. And so many people don't look at that of what can I learn and go from that. So what part of that culture transcends to making a company successful that companies need to have strong leaders?
Well, I think, in my book, Don't Just Manage, Lead, I think I was frustrated as I was going to school, business school, and if you look at the curriculum of most business schools, there is a heavy emphasis on management, accounting and finance and logistics and marketing management and, sales and human resources. But it all centered around measuring things. And there were very few. And I think it's getting better. But when I was going to school, there were very few courses on leadership. And it's hard for universities to really grapple with it, or at least I think it was back in my day, because there was nothing to measure. You can't measure. When you talk about leadership, you're not talking about numbers. Management always talks about numbers. Mm-hmm. Leadership never talks about numbers. Leadership talks about vision and integrity and, being authentic and being vulnerable and being real. And leaders ignite that emotion in you that you go, wow, I want to follow this person. I want to go where this person's going. I believe in what he or she believes in. So anyway, I think as time went on and as I was asked to speak at different conferences, I just always kept sort of hammering away at this whole concept of the difference between management and leadership. And management's good, it's important, but leadership was the capstone on that I think was often missing. And that's how the book came to be.
Awesome. So you talk about leadership a lot. What kind of role models or mentors did you have that gave you the example of leadership and that, you talk about in your book? Or
Yeah, first of all, I think leaders are all around us. I remember going to scout camp as a young man, and there was an old gentleman that worked the snack shack. And I didn't realize it until I was a scoutmaster and I was taking my scouts back to this camp. And that old guy was still there. And as I got to talk to him, I realized that he had a doctorate degree. And I sit there and I go, wow, here's a guy with a doctorate degree that spends his summers working with youth and selling them snacks at this little snack shack. And to me, that's leadership. It's giving back and giving back to the community. And I'm sure when he was going through his doctrinal, process, he didn't envision himself, in an old t-shirt and jeans selling, candy bars to kids. But here he was, and he made such a difference on so many people's lives just from working behind that snack shack. Another example for me, I was truly blessed to have the most amazing father on the planet. And he never verbally preached, but through his actions every single day, the small things he did every day taught myself and my siblings what it meant to be a leader, what it meant to be, a truly strong, vulnerable, real person. So there are tons, you could go down many, John Wood, Vince Lombardi, Abraham Lincoln, John Thomas Jefferson. I could go through tons of leaders historically that I love to read about and love to read about their lives, and they inspire me. But those that inspire me and have had the most effect on me are those that you would never read about in a management or leadership book. They're those who touch me personally and very emotionally.
So what would you say, a lot of our listeners are business people or small to medium-sized businesses, and their parents. So kind of some of the strategies overlap, but what are some of the key strategies someone should do in a small business to make sure they're being a good leader and to implement that? And then on the other side of the coin is, how do you become a great leader of your family? So many times I used to push off any material on leadership. Oh, I don't need that. I'm not running a big company. I don't need to be the leader. And it took me like just so recent years that I went, oh my gosh, I'm leading my family. I've got to lead my kids. And the light bulbs went off, and then I wanted to absorb everything on leadership. So
Right.
That twofold strategies for business owners, as well as for leading your family.
I think the most important thing for a leader to do is to paint a vision as to where they want to go. And I believe real leaders want to change things. If you look at most political events, people gravitate to those political leaders who are out there saying, I'm going to change things. The leader who says, hey, here I come, we're going to maintain status quo, they'll lose every time. Leaders have this instinct to change things. So if you're going to be a leader, never be satisfied with the status quo. Always challenge it, always push yourself, always think about, how can I do this better, bigger, cheaper, smaller, whatever it is my customers want. I've got to figure out a way to truly exceed their expectations. And that's another thing. It's all about expectations, setting expectations and then exceeding those. But you make a great point. I believe that being the leader in the home, and I agree with you, I'm a parent like everyone else, and I've got 4 kids and range wildly in age. But those are the individuals that see me day in and day out. You can come to work. I think a lot of people can come to work and they sort of put on this mask, and they take on this mantle and they take on this persona. And yet, if it's not authentic, if you go home and all of a sudden you drop your mask and you're someone completely different, believe me, you're not leading the most important people in your lives, and those are your kids. And the people at the office, they see right through you. Leadership, I think, is truly authentic and vulnerable. And the other thing is, I find that the same issues my kids wrestle with are the exact same issue that my employees and my colleagues wrestle with. When my little girl is insecure and nervous about going into high school, and she's worried about, she's got body image, or she's concerned about acne or whatever it is, right? And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm not enough. You know, will I make the drill team, or will I make the choir, you know? And they have all these worries. Will I get, you know, asked to a dance, and all these kinds of anxieties? People in your office have those same anxieties, and you have to really understand those. And as a leader, I think you need to be empathetic and really take those to heart, and help your people understand that they are enough, that they don't have to worry about that. So
I love that. A couple of the key things you said was be authentic and have that empathy, right? Know and understand and listen. I think those are a lot of really good qualities for a leader.
You know, I've heard lots of people say, well, I don't want to get to know my people that well because I don't want to grow too attached to them. You know, it's too hard when I let them go, or, you know, there's some shield, there's some veneer or Teflon they want to put up. And if that's the way you're living your life, that is not leadership. Leaders get to know their people. And yeah, I mean, I got to a point, you know, going back to Europe, I mean, we went from 1 employee, me, to over 6,000 employees. And I remember the first year, you know, we grew 30, 40, 50 employees. And I was going to everybody's birthday parties, and, you know, I was being invited over, and they were coming to my parties and stuff. And you get to a point to where you can't do that. Just statistically, you know, you can't attend everybody's birthday party. But the desire is still there. The desire to reach out and connect and press the flesh and shake hands and give hugs and really sit down and understand and be empathetic with people, I think is always there. And I think real leaders do just that.
I like that. Well, we've talked before about the concept of an easy, hard life, or a hard, easy life. Tell us the story behind that. And you talk about this from stage, right?
I do. And actually, this is the catalyst or the foundation of my 3rd book that I'm currently writing right now. And it's this whole concept of there's a natural law, just like gravity, that everyone lives by. And that is, you can choose to live your life easy, hard, or hard, easy. The first choice you make, regardless of whether you choose easy or you choose hard, is your choice. The follow-on is always going to be the opposite, and it's a consequence of your choice. So let me give you an example. If I had chosen to not go to college and to work right out of high school, that may have been the easy thing to do. But I chose the hard thing, and believe me, college was extremely difficult for me. But because I chose the hard thing, there were many positive things that happened as a result of that hard experience in my life, that now I'm living the consequences of easy. Or let me give you another, maybe a real one. There are a lot of people, it's real easy. I'm trying to teach my kids this right now, especially my older ones. It's real easy to go get a credit card. All the banks on the planet are going to give you a credit card, and they're going to, you know, give you a $5,000 credit limit. And it's real easy to run around the malls or wherever you want and grab that stereo or that new dress or whatever it is that you think is going to bring you happiness. It's easy to do that. But sooner or later, if you continue that behavior, sooner or later, you have to live hard. You have to live hard. Our nation, not to get political, but our nation's, what, $19 trillion in debt? Mm-hmm. We have to live hard sooner or later. You cannot continue that type of behavior and just continue to borrow. You have to live hard. I'll give you another example. It would be real easy for me to drive through McDonald's, and I'm not picking on McDonald's. Okay, I love McDonald's, but it'd be real easy for me to drive through a fast food and pick up a sandwich every morning. It's hard waking up and going to the gym at 4 a.m. People who wake up and go to the gym, I think people who don't wake up and go to the gym look at those who do wake up and go to the gym and say, well, it's easy for you. I'm not a morning person. Well, bag that. Nobody's a morning person, okay? Nobody likes the alarm going off at 4 a.m. in the morning. I promise. But there are people who get up and do it. They do the hard thing so later they can live easy. And, you know, taking care of your health, finance, relationships, education, your career. You know, you have this concept of living hard, easy, or easy, hard.
And I think that applies. Since we first had that initial conversation, I've been using that on my children on a regular basis.
I use it so often that my kids will say, "Dad, Dad, 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 please." We've heard it. we've heard it. And I said, well, you may have heard it, but your actions are completely contrary to what we've been talking about. So I think often, and that's another thing about leaders, I think leaders are often the cheerleaders. And I think there's a key there. Cheerleaders are there not to teach anything new, but to remind us of what we already know we should do. They're there to remind us, hey, don't hit your sister. You know, hey, you know, we got to go the extra mile on this account. You know, we've got to go out and visit this client. They're concerned, or I can tell they're not completely happy with us. We need to figure out why. You know,
I get that from my my one son all the time when I listen to inspirational, motivational things of that like you say, that you know already. And my son's like, Mom, everybody knows that. That's so dumb that you're listening to that. Everyone knows that. I'm like, yeah, but are you doing that? Are you actually doing those things? If it's so easy? And there is really a whole population of people that don't know that at all. I was talking to someone in a taxi or an Uber driver, and we were talking about his goals and aspirations and things that I was telling him. He was like, no, I never heard that before. No, I didn't know that. You know?
Yeah, again, it's, you know, the whole easy, hard, hard, easy thing. It's a concept. I think it's very natural to people. But again, I'm on this, first time I heard it, I was on this cattle drive. My horse I wanted to cross this river at a certain spot. My horse didn't want to. My horse wanted to go upstream. And I kept thinking, no, that's terrible up there. It's worse up there. You want to cross here. And my horse and I were having this argument. And finally, I was getting frustrated. So finally, I was like, okay, whatever. You want to cross up there? I'll let you cross up there. And just this old cowboy friend of mine, he was sitting there right on his horse, a big bay he calls General, right around the pine. And he'd been watching this whole situation. And right as I was about to give in to my horse, he yelled out at me. He said, Coombs, you can live easy hard, or you can live hard easy. It's your choice. And I had never heard that. And I was like, what are you talking about, Gordon? And he said, it's the easy thing right now to give into your horse. And yes, you can cross the stream and you can catch up with the rest of us. Or you can go back and cross that stream where you want to cross the stream. And it might take you a half an hour. It might take you 4 hours. I don't know. But if you give into your horse now, you will be fighting this battle for as long as you ride that horse. Because the horse will always want to cross where he wants to cross, not where you want to cross. And I see this, I mean, we see it in supermarkets, we see it all over the place. We see it in parenting all the time, and I fall victim to it as well, right? Everyone has had that kid in the supermarket. I want candy, I want candy, I want candy, please give me candy, I want candy, I want candy, give me candy. And they start into this meltdown. And how many parents go, okay, fine, shh, pick one. You know, You can live easy hard, or you can live hard easy. If you give in to that candy bar, you will be buying candy bars for the rest of your life. And that behavior will spiral into other aspects of their lives.
Right.
You can't do that. You just can't do that. And all the other parents around, we understand. We're silently going, don't give in, don't give in, don't give in, please. So anyway.
That's great advice. So you speak all over the world. Tell us where someone can get in touch with you if they want you to speak at their group.
I have a website, www all one word, art, A-R-T, Coombs, COOMBS.com. You can reach me there. And that's probably the best place. My second book is going to be coming out in probably this summer. And my third book, I hope, will be out probably in January, February of next year.
You're on fire. Publishing fire. I love it.
So.
And show us again, hold up your the book that you have right now currently on Amazon.
Oh, can you see it?
Yep. And we're going to brag a little bit. He just recently became a #1 best-selling author, and Elite Online Publishing helped him accomplish that. So we're real proud of him.
You guys are great.
And we will put the link up for his book so you can get his book, and also the website so you can book Art to be a speaker. He's a fantastic speaker. He speaks to high-level groups all over the world. So don't be shy if you live too far away. He'll be there.
Yeah, you can also find him on Facebook, Arthur Coombs. It's author Arthur Coombs. Try and say that fast 10 times. And then also on his website, you can check out his blog. He has a great blog and post to that. And I love reading that. It's good, really good content.
So you guys are awesome.
Thanks, Art. We enjoyed having you. So if you like this podcast, please share it and like it and leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you as well. And if you have a book inside of you, please contact us at eliteonlinepublishing.com, and we would love to help you publish it and make you a #1 best-selling author. See you next time.
Take care.
For more information about us, go to eliteonlinepublishing.com. To get your free book, The Accomplishment and Success Story Starter, simply text your name and email to 832-572-5285. That's 832-572-5285. We'd also like to thank Audible for supporting Elite Expert Insider. To get your free 30-day trial, please go to bit.ly/Elite Audible. That's bit.ly/Elite Audible, and get your free 30-day trial to show your support. Thank you, Audible.